Dan, Amy is back in studio tomorrow, and looking forward to this conversation. This should be interesting. F.H. Buckley is a law professor at the George Mason University Scalia School of Law. And by the way, I just recently saw this picture of Scalia. Talk about how times have changed. Scalia smoking a pipe during his confirmation hearings for the Supreme Court of the United States. How cool is that? And how far afield we are from those halcyon days today. Professor Buckley recently wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal. America has too much law, making the point democracy can also die in brightly lit courtrooms, as well as in brightly lit congressional hearing rooms. But he makes the point in his piece, among other things, that, for example, Hillary Clinton should not have been prosecuted during the 2016 campaign, despite the relative creativity when it came to the rule of law of one former FBI director, Jim Comey. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Professor F.H. Buckley from George Mason. Professor, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So my question, I guess, and you kind of touch on both points in your piece, and I think this is sort of where Americans are trying to make sense of it. Do we have too much law, or two systems, or two systems of justice, or some combination of the two?
Well, my main point is that there's something noble about democracy. We fought for it on battlefields, we fight for it in the ballot box, and when it's taken away from us by lawyers and judges, then we've lost something very precious. And that was my argument for, against the grain, not going after Hillary Clinton and not trying to criminalize the great Trump defendant by the Mueller investigation and so on.
Right, and so the idea is we're criminalizing politics. This is a discussion we've had, frankly, in Illinois with all the governors who've gone to jail.
Yeah, right.
But this notion of, and this was used against McDonnell in Virginia as well, and the Supreme Court struck down some of his convictions. This inalienable right to public service, or to ethical public service, which is sort of an abstraction, and it can lead the zealous prosecutor to criminalizing politics.
Well, yeah, and the problem here is that we're not talking about, maybe I'm not talking about Blago, okay, but what we're talking about are secondary crimes, process crimes. The thing they got Mike Flynn for, they got Flynn for lying to the FBI about something where, had he told the truth, it wouldn't have been a crime. It was the Martha Stewart thing.
Right.
And so the problem here is there's so many crimes out there that if they want to get you, they can pretty much get you. And when that happens and it's used aggressively in politics, then we've turned into, countries like Ukraine where they go after ex-presidents who always end up in jail.
And so this I'm sorry, go ahead.
I guess I don't want to defend Blago, however.
No, I understand. I wouldn't put you in that position. But so is this sort of where the death of common sense meets 3 felonies a day? Sort of two popular books that really sort of talked about our bureaucratic state, and then also just the idea that you have so much law, you're committing crimes, you don't even know it.
Absolutely right. I mean, it really is 3 felonies a day. And the politicization of everything. I mean, we're at a point in our country right now where, it's a very short step from I oppose you politically to you're a criminal. Mm-hmm. And that's a step we don't want to take. And one thing we want to do is, if there are rogues out there, if there are people who are somewhat corrupt, and here I put Hillary Clinton, in many cases, it's the people who should decide that. I mean, we're not talking about out-and-out bribes that can be clearly proven, i.e. Blago. We're talking about things that kind of look like bribes, which is Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, but you couldn't prove, really. You could charge, and you could look for a process crime, right, but or a technical offense, but we don't want to go there.
What about, though, the two systems of justice concern? And here's Hillary's a good example of that, of course, which is well, wait a second, you have other people who've done the same thing with classified information that she did, and they're charged with crimes, their careers are ended, and she gets a walk. And so the concern about two systems of justice in this country.
Yeah, that is a problem. Overzealousness with respect to some prosecutions is not an argument for extending it to politicians. I think what you're doing is you're saying we've been too overzealous with respect to some minor offenses. And what you're referring to, by the way, are people in the military.
Right.
And they have different standards, tough standards.
But is this the way that we're sort of starting from the premises of the "show me the man and I'll find you the crime" crowd?
Yeah.
When
Beria.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And we're sort of on that path when we're saying, well, there's all these laws and somebody was charged under this law and somebody wasn't, so everybody should be charged rather than everybody shouldn't be charged.
Yeah. Well, they used to play a game in the attorney's office in New York City. How many crimes could you charge Mother Teresa with, right? They come up with a whole ton of them, right? There's always something. And so this is like 3 felonies a day meets, American politics. What's different now, especially with the Mueller investigation and all the small fry that are being prosecuted, what's different now is this has been politicized.
And so then it just becomes a matter of whoever has the machinery of government can prosecute their political enemies, and then you get to your Eastern Bloc territory.
A good example is my local paper, the Washington Post, has a banner on top that says "Democracy dies in darkness," and they've got people speculating about crimes here, crimes there. Basically, the entire Trump administration is guilty of some crime. And why don't we go after them? And my piece was written in response. And by the way, I'm a complete Trump supporter. I was a Trump speechwriter, and I have a book out there called The Republican Workers' Party, which is all about why Trump was necessary. So I have a partisan angle in this, but at the same time, I didn't want to seem partisan. So I said, look, I even think Hillary should have gotten a pass on this.
What do you think about the kind of endless independent counsel investigations, as well as congressional hearings, including the prospect of subpoenaing Rod Rosenstein over the stories that he was interested in making a 25th Amendment play on Trump?
Well, Justice Scalia, to whom you referred to a moment ago, said this is going to be a devastating blow to our democracy, and he was completely right. You give somebody unlimited time and unlimited power to go after people, and that's pretty much what happens. They take unlimited time. I'd like to think everybody's honorable in all of this. I don't really want to impeach the integrity of Mueller and Rosenstein. They're kind of doing what the system expects them to do, which is what good lawyers do, which is take all the time in the world to find out a problem. But it's getting in the way of our democracy. I mean, one wanted Mueller really to come out with something around now, before the congressional. And, and it's just spinning out of control the way these things tend to do. So it's a process independent of politics. And I want to say, no, this is dangerous to politics. We're hurting something. We're hurting the voice of the people.
All right. He is Professor F.H. Buckley, professor at George Mason University's Scalia School of Law. The piece in the Wall Street Journal, America Has Too Much Law, the book, Republican Workers' Party. Professor Buckley, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you joined us on Turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made this